boy Luke, bringing you my best bets for this week's Hero World Challenge. This is a little bit of a different video here on the channel, but I've been covering DFS, been doing the course breakdowns here, but now I want to show you guys what I'm doing from the betting side. I've been participating week after week. I've talked about some of my outright bets, but going to go ahead, document them here in this video, and give you guys some of the plays I think have the most value on the slate. So with that being said, let's hop right into it. First off with my matchups for this week. First matchup I'm targeting is Abraham Ancer over Bryson DeChambeau. Abraham Ancer is a -105 favorite in this matchup, and personally, it's more about Bryson DeChambeau than it is Ancer. I mean, Ancer obviously has the kind of approach play I'm looking for here at Albany. It's a golf course, but you really get penalized on your second shot a little bit more than your first. And while he doesn't have the length that I'm looking for, it at least gets it done with the approach play. On the other side of things, Bryson DeChambeau is spraying it off the tee. I mean, we saw that over there at Wynn Golf Club. But more importantly, his irons were all over the place. He had nothing dialed in. His distance control was atrocious, and overall, he's not going to get away with it here at Albany. Like I said before, a lot of the penalties are around the green, really into these greens, and as a result, Abraham Ancer should not only have a higher floor in this matchup, but obviously has the higher ceiling as well. So for me, definitely somebody I'll be investing in terms of a matchup. The next matchup I'm targeting is Collin Morikawa over Rory McIlroy. The matchup of the two heavyweights, I have McIlroy as a slight underdog in this instance. The reason why is, first off, he hasn't been hitting the ball well of late. He's really been carrying himself with the around the green play and the putting. Most notably the putting. He's gained over 3 strokes putting in his last 5 events, which is encouraging on its own, but unfortunately, he's been bleeding strokes on approach. His wedges have been absolutely terrible, and even though he's been his normal self with the driver, that's enough to worry me, especially considering Collin Morikawa is one of my favorite plays this week. If you guys saw my DFS video, you saw that he's my favorite spend-up option. Somebody I talked about in the course breakdown video as essentially a perfect fit for this venue. So really like him here this week. He has the approach play that I'm looking for. He's been decent on some of these greens of late, putting a lot better than what we've seen over the last year or so. If he can continue that momentum, obviously coming in off the win last week internationally, I love him here in this matchup. But lastly, we have Patrick Reed over Brooks Koepka, which is a battle of the, let's say, highly publicized players. First off, I like Patrick Reed here. A lot of it comes down to motivation. First off, Brooks, I'm not even sure why he's showing up. Somebody who was questioning the fact he was even playing well last week at the Win, kind of jokes saying, I guess this is my major championship, which of course is alluding to the joke that he only tries at major championships, only plays well. If there's going to be any golf tournament where he kind of lays back, doesn't give it his full attention, it's going to be this event, unfortunately. On the other side of things, you have Patrick Reed, who is utterly obsessed with his world ranking. The guy just wants to eat up as many of those points as possible, plays as many golf tournaments as possible to try and bolster that ranking as well. And there is no doubt in my mind, with all of these names in this field, with the potential to gain a ton of world ranking points, seemingly in an unfair way, that Patrick Reed tries really hard to do so. So I like him here in this matchup. Definitely has a lot more motivation than Brooks Koepka. And if you take a look at their pure metrics in terms of how they're playing, both of them gaining right around the same amount of strokes gained per round, right around 0.7 shots gained per round over their last 24 rounds. So neither of them has been particularly good. I mean, they've been just kind of getting by for this range. Reed definitely has more motivation in this matchup, and that's why I'm targeting him. Now let's move to the outrights, the more interesting end of the spectrum. The first outright we're going to is going to be Xander Schauffele at plus 1,200. And while I like some of the guys at the top of the board, I mentioned Collin Morikawa as a great play, also Justin Thomas during my DFS video. I expect somebody from this mid-range to come through this week. Too many people are buying in at that top-end range, and while they're obviously great plays, people that can win any week on the PGA Tour, their numbers just aren't appetizable to me. Talking about 6-1 for Rory McIlroy, 7-1 for Collin Morikawa, right around 9-1 for Justin Thomas. For me, I need those closer to something like 10-1, something like that to really make sense. And to me, Xander Schauffele could easily be priced up with the rest of those guys. So that's why I'm targeting here at the top of my board. I really like the course fit here. Obviously, somebody who tears up these no-cut events, but more importantly, has a well-rounded game. And that's really what it takes here at Albany. A course that not only is relatively long, you're dealing with some greens that are dealing with relatively high undulation, but also raised greens. Overall, it gives you a relatively good test of golf. You can't really be leaking in one part of your game and succeed here. That's why we've seen players with well-rounded games finished well here in the past. So overall, like him there at 12-1. He's somebody that I think should be priced closer to 8-1 when you compare him to some of the other names in this field. So as a result, he's my biggest bet of the week and somebody that I think ends up pulling through for the win. Next up, we have Webb Simpson at 18-1. If I'm going to take a shot a little bit further down the board, and these last two picks are a little bit more of sprinkles than they are full-on bets. A lot of my action here is with Xander Schauffele. He's the most convicted of these three picks. But Webb Simpson, after gaining 9 strokes on approach last week, I shouldn't say last week, last event at the RSM Classic, going right back to him. He's shown a lot of that ability of late. Also gained over 8 strokes on approach at the Wyndham Championship. And even though he hasn't played a ton, when we've seen him, he's been great with the ball striking. Unfortunately, at the RSM Classic, the only reason he didn't take home that championship, he was able to gain on approach and around the green, was he lost strokes putting, which isn't something that happens very often to Webb. He's one of the better putters on the PGA Tour, particularly on Bermuda grass, so I fully expect him to rebound in that category. So at 18-1, it might not be the best number on Webb. You truly probably should be closer to 22 or even 25-1 to win. I really like the momentum coming in, and I can't miss out on somebody that just gained over 9 strokes on approach at a very similar golf course. And that seemingly is a great course fit this time around as well. And lastly, though, our long shot this week, and I'll say quote-unquote long shot because he's 25-1, that is going to be Matthew Fitzpatrick. Absolutely love him as a course fit here. He is underrated in terms of his off-the-tee play. One of the longer players in this field, also one of the more accurate players. In terms of shots gained off the tee, ranking number 3. And if I asked you in trivia who's the 3rd ranked player in terms of shots gained off the tee in this field, I guarantee you that none of you would guess Matthew Fitzpatrick. But moreover than just that, he's been decent on approach, has been a lot more consistent in that category of late, gaining a quarter of a stroke per round in that category. But more than anything, the guy is a short game wizard. He does not lose in any of the 4 major statistical categories. So just like Xander Schauffele, he doesn't have a hole in his game. And overall, I just think the number's wrong here. He should be priced a little bit closer to a Webb Simpson at their very least, if not closer to 16 or 15-1. So for me, at 25-1 presents a lot of inherent value. So for that reason, definitely making my player card here. But going to a bonus pick, something I wanted to add in here is a low European this week, also Matt Fitzpatrick. Only dealing with 7 of them in the field, and really the only contender, at least in my book, for this position alongside Matthew Fitzpatrick would, I guess, be Trawhan, but moreover than anything, Rory McIlroy. And like we talked about before, McIlroy's approach play is a real struggle for me. So at 5.5-1 odds, really like Matt Fitzpatrick as the top Euro. That is all I've got for my best bets. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you have winning this week. For me, obviously, I have it down to those 3 options, but if you have somebody else, go ahead and let me know. And as always, guys, always appreciate all of your support here. If you guys haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure you guys go ahead and do so. We're going to have our live stream on Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There we'll be going over our player pool for DFS, any last-second weather implications, and of course, any questions down in the chat. So if you guys have DFS questions, betting questions, people you're considering adding to your card, that kind of thing, go ahead and let me know down in the comments and we'll cover whatever you want to talk about. But until then, guys, good luck with all of your bets or your DFS lineups for this week, and let's get the spread.